split pushing over on the sides. It's very much going to be on Beichuan hitting some big lilting lullabies to set these fights up. You need to buy a lot of space for a Jin. He needs to be able to get multiple rotations of those shots off and then be sat far enough back to make the curtain call work to close out a team fight in a lot of situations. And in the 1v1 can get pushed around a little bit depending on what the support pairings are going to be. We're going to see a lot of those best in classes banned away here. You'd have to imagine things like the Rel, the Leona, all of those still available. Alistair too. The Nautilus taken off of the board removes one of them. There goes the Leona. Do you actually want to put any focus onto the mid laners right here, or are you happy to just kind of let them go for free?
I'm very curious to see what the rest of this draft still has in store for us here, Bloxxer, as a couple of flexible picks, specifically that Cho'Gath here in the solo lane for ThunderTalk. We're expecting Hoya to play this. It seems to fit his playstyle as something that could be a little bit more on that weak side, doesn't need a ton of resources to become useful later on in the game. But it looks like supports are really just getting taken away here, as the Rel would be maybe the next option in terms of engaged supports for On. That could be potentially on the table. And that could create for a bit of an interesting situation as to what each team wants to prioritize here with just 2 picks left to go in this Game 2 draft.
As of right now, BLG really don't have any lanes that are going to win to try to actually play around right now, as we do indeed get all 4 of those bans on towards the supports. So you'd have to imagine it's going to be a support pickup right here. Rel is the only remaining one of those heavy engaged supports that you actually still have left to you on the map. Works well alongside that Lilia to be that other bit of hard engage. BLG did need to leave that mid lane until the last pick, because they need a winning lane to potentially try to play around right here. Renata would work well into the Lilia. Isn't exactly the sort of all-in composition that we usually think of the Renata going into, though.
I was going to say, not the best necessarily usage for this Renata. I would have liked it a lot more for Feather last game, but it's going to be the Ahri here locked in for SeTab that confirms the Cho'Gath will be up in the top lane, which is, again, our expectations when this was selected. And we're waiting for Feather to potentially figure out this final pick. The Poppy would have been interesting for its interaction with the Rel, but that's about it in terms of the steadfast presence. It looks like that still might be the direction ThunderTalk want to go. They're going to lock that in for Feather and set themselves up a wonky team composition that is largely based off of finding resets and controlling neutral objectives.
Absolutely. The Poppy also just gives you so much extra tankiness that you can try to potentially play around. I don't necessarily dislike it in this situation, although yes, it's not necessarily the Poppy game of all time with a ton of dashes that you really need to be worrying about. This was actually increased the amount of utility you can get out of that steadfast presence for Feather if it is going to be the Yone locked in. Really hovering on towards, and it is going to be picked up right here. So a very heavily AD composition. Beichuan going to be the only AP damage available. It is the lane you can try to potentially play around, but Ahri is a very safe laning champion. I really don't see where BLG can play during the early stages of this game.
This is a wacky draft. I don't really know what to think about either of these teams. Yeah. I know that ThunderTalk will be able to, dominate certain objectives. They'll have good poke with both the Varus Qs as well as, the Ruptures coming out from Hoya. They'll have double smite with the Cho'Gath Feast and the smite from the Viego. They'll have resets with the Viego and the Ahri. What does that all mean? I don't know exactly, and BLG is specifically on the other side. I feel like split pushing is what they are going to thrive in. On the side lanes with this Yorick as well as the Yone on his own, we'll be able to match up a lot in terms of how powerful he can get in a 1v1 lane as we get later on into this game.
I thought the Ben had a much better look on the Ambessa in the previous game. Let's see if he's going to be able to continue this one on. I don't think the Yorick has looked good for him at all the couple of times that he's played it so far in the LPL this split. But of course, ThunderTalk not necessarily one of the best teams overall, maybe one to really get you into a good spot on this Yorick. We'll see. Is it going to be a team fight Yorick? Because that's often the sign that a team with Yorick is going to lose, or is Ben going to spend his entire game off in a sideline by himself, just melting through towers. You've got the kind of composition for BLG that can make it work in a 4v5. Of course, ThunderTalk, they are so reliant on getting a couple of picks, either with the Chains of Corruptions or the Charm, get that first reset, and then you can just begin to run through it with that very strong Viego pickup.
Well, ThunderTalk are have a lot to potentially work out here, as they are down 1-0 to their former jungler in Beichuan, who is, again, playing the first game against his former team here in the LPL. And it's been a good start for this BLG roster, even though it's not been full of dominant 2-0s and the like. They've been taking series. They're looking for their third straight here as we're on to the Rift for game number 2.
That's it. Are we going to go to game number 3? Can ThunderTalk fight their way back right here? You put a lot right here onto this brand new jungler. Can Zhao Hongren really begin to pay that one back? The Viego, a very strong champion in the meta at the moment, but it requires quite a lot of setup, you know? It doesn't necessarily have the way to be able to set these team fights up for itself, but once you get that initial pick, it can turn around and just be an absolute beast.
Some nice setups across the map right now. BLG, curious to see what Beichuan does here in this game. Again, lone AP threat. So meaning that he'll have to be pretty ahead on the Lilia in order for his team to find some level of success. We see him not going for an early invade like we sometimes see Lilias do, instead opting for just controlling the top side of his jungle, actually opting for a red buff start. That's not something we typically see. As a little bit of trading will open up the bot lane matchup here in the 2v2. Feather already having the Ignite proc on top of him. Gonna get hit by that 4-shot. All of a sudden, a lot of trouble here. Ollie's gonna flash forward. Feather might just be dead. One more auto is gonna do it, and Alec picks up first blood for BLG.
Oh, was not expecting Elk and On to be able to win in this 2v2 in the bottom lane, but if it works out like that, okay, no worries there. Elk more than happy to be able to pick up that initial kill. Now, not going to be able to head back to base at this point, so it isn't really going to be an advantage to him right here, right now. But once you do get to go back to base, have that extra 300 gold to be able to spend, it's going to make the spot lane incredibly uncomfortable for ThunderTalk this early on into the game.
I'm very confused as to why 1xN and Feather were standing there in that situation. It felt like
great question.
They were looking to try to outdamage them, but that just doesn't happen level 1 when you have On with 2 abilities basically at level 1, and you know, Feather not very useful until you get that second ability with the heroic charge or something. I don't know.
Exactly. You really don't have that much to be able to give to your team as ThunderTalk's bot lane during the early levels, and the reset does indeed come through. It is going to be the Cull as the pickup right here for Elk, so he's just looking to be able to farm himself up, get to those item breakpoints. Of course, Jhin, not necessarily a big early game champion, very much looks to play around the mid and the late game. Once you've got a good couple of items under your belt, can start just doming people with those 4th shots, and this is a great bit of acceleration towards that point. Now, while all of that excitement was going off, both of the junglers did start up towards the top side of the map, while working their way down towards the bottom lanes, so we could potentially see even more skirmishing in bottom lane if anybody pushes a little bit too far forward.
Target could definitely be Feather, who is without both summoner spells and still on a level 2 Poppy, which is not necessarily a very powerful champion, all things considered. As BLG already have themselves a bit of an advantage here in this second game. Zhao Hongren looking for maybe an angle here, but he's going to get spotted out by the Lilia, dashed away from the Swirl Seed, but will be unable to really control this area of the map with that pink ward, already blocking out so much here for BLG.
Are they still going to go for this?
Midlane Prio kind of lies with SeTab, but he's really low on mana at this point, so it's enough for that crab to be secured by Beichuan. And now SeTab going back to base. It's going to be double scuttle here for Beichuan very easily.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing you can do right here as Zhao Hongren to be able to actually get involved. Just sort of watches that one go away. Now Beichuan going to be able to pick up this top lane scuttle as well, and it's a small advantage. Of course, it's a small advantage at this point, but you're a Lilia. Power farming is your whole thing.
And we'll get Beichuan stronger and stronger. We said that this guy needs to get ahead in order for BLG to have some good success here in this game. A very pivotal part of the team composition and a pivotal part of why BLG have been finding some success potentially with this new roster. Haven't seen necessarily game-changing plays or things like that, but things definitely seem to be working better now that Beichuan is a part of the lineup instead of Wei.
Been a certain increase so far as we watch the top laners go back and forth just a little bit so far. Hoya, he's been a big part of the issues ThunderTalk have been facing. I gotta be honest, not been a particularly impressive top laner so far in this split number 2. Hang on, what lane? Okay. Or if that Deadly Flourish had have landed right there onto Feather, that could well have been another all-in engage out of the BLG bot lane. Instead, things are just going to carry on, and Hoya once again going to get pulled into the cage. One more Q.
Flash.
Oh, just about. Has to flash away, dang.
Now, Bin wasn't going to follow his flashes. That could have been a bit of a risky situation, but Hoya now forced back to base. Going to have to teleport back in. We did see him able to survive a lot longer than maybe another tank would have been able to against somebody like this York, and that's because obviously the Cho'Gath passive means you heal off of the ghouls being taken down, and that will give you a little bit of extra sustain. We also see Hoya going for a Bramble Vest early, so looking primarily for defense here in this 1v1. across the map as well. Just a little quick update here. 1xn did go for the lethality build here with the Comet and might be targeted here in this bottom lane with Beichuan joining the fray. Nice nice ulti here from Feather. Might keep him alive. The Ignite's ticking and finally get taken down by On. As that's the second kill picked up here for BLG in this game. Looking for Beichuan in Xiaohongren, but it's not going to find anything as 1xn. Very low on mana and HP, but will get away from the Deadly Flourish.
Just about manages to dodge away from that one. Needed to put his dancing shoes on. Stand up right there would have likely spelled his demise, but another kill going down into this bottom lane right here. Elk now in a very strong position, manages to go back to base, grab some Swifties, as the Jins like to do. And we do now have the first Drake up and available on the map for anybody who wants to take it. Right now, ThunderTalk going to head straight towards that one, and Beichuan not interested in getting involved right here. Is just going to head up towards the top side of the map, get a little bit more farming done. So initial Ocean Soul does go over to ThunderTalk, and I gotta be honest, when you've got yourself a Cho'Gath composition, that does feel good.
We'll see if it can turn into more than just this dragon being taken down. Again, we said that overall TT's composition should be able to prioritize these major objectives and, you know, be able to have a good opportunity with them. But BLG are looking for kills and to try to snowball the gold lead to make sure that they will have no chance at getting to a potential Soul Baron or anything else. As with Hoya going down, that is Feats of Warfare picked up for Bilibili.
There we go. Right now, looks like BLG in complete and utter control of this game. They do not want to go to a game number 3. They want to pick themselves up that 2-0 with the stolen away jungler from ThunderTalk. Beichuan, so far, very proactive right here on the Lilia. It's one of those pickups that doesn't necessarily sound like it should fit his playstyle, right? He usually likes things like the Skarner, the Pantheon, maybe the Vi or the Xin Zhao. The Lilia, very different to all of that, but also one of the better champions that we've seen him play with recently. So far, getting very aggressive with this one and making it work whilst also maintaining that CS advantage as you really need to on a Lilia.
Yeah, doing basically everything that he needs to do here in this game number 1. We'll see how that continues to grow and change as the game progresses, but so far, good game number 2 for the new jungler of BLG. And they've opened up almost a 2,500 gold lead over ThunderTalk here. Not as close as maybe that game 1 was towards the end of things here, but you remember the ThunderTalk were also pretty far behind in that one, and were able to find angles back in. Could it be here around the Grub Pit? I don't think so, as Xiaohongren kind of alone here in that bush right now. As it is BLG to control this, with Bin having the Maiden as well. Already 2 of those Grubs taken down, and now SeTab gonna get targeted here, but a really nice engage from On. It's now 4-0, and the Lilting Lullaby will find 2. Up is going to be the Fate Sealed. Knight goes in, Feather taken down, and BLG are just running away with this game.
They really are. They're now up by 5 kills to none, up by 3,000 gold as well, with picking up all of these grubs. That's exactly what you want to do when you've got yourself a composition with a Yorick. He wants to be melting through towers, and this just helps in that aim so much. The only thing ThunderTalk has been able to pick up for themselves so far has been that initial Ocean Drake. That wasn't contested. BLG were more than happy to give that one up so far. First items will be coming through pretty soon. Nothing too interesting in terms of the build pass that I can see so far. So we have a look back at this initial play, and I love the aggression from On. Flashes forwards straight into that Shattering Strike, picking up that kill. And then the second that the bowling ball lands onto multiple members, that Lilting Lullaby comes on through. Knight, he knows the correct target to go for, doesn't mind letting go the enemy jungler. And they're going to be able to pick up that kill right here. Like I said, decent little gold lead right now. Actually, nearly 3,000 gold lead right here for BLG. And they can potentially play around this next Drake incredibly effectively if they want it. 2 minutes until we're going to have a Mountain Drake on the board.
And honestly, I'm thinking about, like, what are the things that ThunderTalk are doing wrong? Obviously, like, Feather has had some rough positioning mistakes that have resulted in him dying a couple extra times, but overall, I think it's just BLG playing the map pretty well, specifically around their bot lane. On has had himself a really good start to this game, Beichuan as well. And so this is kind of the start of maybe seeing what this BLG roster can look like at full force, with Beichuan really becoming integrated with the rest of the roster.
I mean, in terms of ThunderTalk, right? Top lane just never really gets ahead for them. 1xn and Feather are meant to be the main people here, but Feather's now died 3 times. It's more than half of his team's deaths at this point. You really can't play effectively as an ADC when your support is finding so many deaths. It makes it really rough. Right now, Multiple members of BLG hanging around towards the top side of the map. Nothing too much to fight around quite yet. 1 minute now until the Drake is going to be coming through. And like you said, ThunderTalk, they may not be looking good, but BLG, this might be the beginning of them looking a lot better. They really needed the turnaround. Yes, ThunderTalk, a pretty weak opponent to do it too, but still, they've got some tougher opponents up and coming. They are looking a lot better with this jungle swap around.
Question is, how far can it grow? How much can it continue? Is it just a honeymoon, or is this something more? Because right now it looks like everybody kind of playing a little bit better with Beichuan in the roster. Even if he's not involved, Bin gets a solo kill on the Hoya.
Hoya just not having a good time of it so far in split number 2. And now that you've died up in the top lane, up against the Yorick, this tower is just gone. 3 grubs. Maiden up unavailable too. Bin's going to be able to pick this one up for his squad. That's going to be the first tower of the game going over to BLG. And after they were able to pick themselves up the first 3 kills as well, that's going to be the feats going over to this squad. Actually, hang on. I'm surprised that Bin doesn't just push forwards and try to fully take that one. Fair enough, you could grab it on the next one, I guess.
You have 2 minutes until the plates fall if you want to try to go for one final push here, or maybe just save it for later regardless.
Yeah.
As it is a dragon, now started up by BLG as well. ThunderTalk did get the first one, as with Xiaohongren controlling that bot side of the map. But that is basically all they've been able to get so far. Can they finally find a kill? Heroic charge lands on, and that is finally ThunderTalk getting on the board, although it is Feathers securing the gold. Teleport coming in. It is going to be Bin joining the fight here. The curtain call is going to find its 4-shot on a SeTab, chuck him down to 100 HP. Ignite is taking him down. Bin flashes forward. He's got himself a double kill off of the TP, and the fates will be sealed for ThunderTalk. It's a triple kill for Giga Bin, and BLG's up 9-1 in this game.
Usually I'm not a fan of the team fight Yorick, but in that situation it was perfect. He can now push down into the bottom side of the map and try pick up another couple of tower plates right there. 3 kills, triple over to Bin, and the Drake. Oh, the Drake actually did go over to ThunderTalk, so they were able to pick that one.
Still up.
Oh no, that's the second one. Nobody was even able to grab this one. Hoya, I think he's just dead again. This has been Hoya's entire split so far.
Thought he had time to push with that teleport down from Bin, but looks like there are other members here to try to take him down now as well. Knight gonna finish this one off and get some more gold into the back pockets of Bilibili. The dragon finally also going Beichuan's way.
There we go. Now it's going to be 10 kills over to BLG. Like you said, they're actually able to grab that Drake that the first team fight didn't result in either. BLG are in firm control of this one. 5,000 gold in the advantage, and this tower should fall right here. Very surprising if it doesn't go down at this point into the game. There we go. 1 or 2 more autos from Knight is going to pick that one up. Feet's very much going over to BLG. And what can you do right here as ThunderTalk to get yourself back into this game? Because this team fight initially looks okay for them, right? They're able to get this kill onto On before he's able to really do too much. But then Knight jumps back in, and I think it's this curtain call right here that just completely breaks it. Elk does so much damage, and it means that the second the Bin arrives, he's just able to walk at people, Q them, bop them, bonk them down. There's not really anything that the members of ThunderTalk can do except scatter and run and try their very best to get away.
Yeah, Bin Shovel looking more like a broom there as he was on cleanup duty in that last fight. 5-0-2 on the Yorick. Getting closer to that second item as well. This guy, very, very powerful, and it's going to get to the point where nobody can stop him in a side lane in a 1v1, even a 1v2 situation. And so that creates a bad situation for ThunderTalk, obviously, as they're now down about 5,500 gold at the 15-minute mark, which is never where you want to be. However, it's a similar spot to where they were in game number 1, and we saw that that game got extended just a little bit, but still,
yeah,
you're never going to want to put yourself in that spot. So.
No, very much not. And as we were saying in that game number 1, it was very much BLG making mistakes in that game that felt like it was giving ThunderTalk ways back into this one. So unless we're going to see some wild flashes into the backline from Beichuan, which, you know, I'm not going to put beyond him, I don't know necessarily that ThunderTalk are going to be able to pull their way back into this one. Herald is going to be spawning right about now. Got a couple minutes until the next Drake and until the Atakan is going to spawn. Bin opens up in the mid lane. Curtain call 2.
Oh wow, the cage, it locks up 2 members of the bot lane, just gets caught in it, and Feather already going down. Been a half HP on, going in with a Magnet Storm. Hoya taking very low, making it a 2-0 in favor of BLG. The Lilting Lullaby finds 2, but there's no re-engage underneath the tier 1 turret, and so Bilibili feeling very happy about where things are at right now. SeTab dashing forward, finding a charm in on a Knight.
Oh,
that could be a single turnaround, but there's just not enough damage here for ThunderTalk, as they're getting obliterated here in this second game.
The rest of BLG are going to turn around and attempt to go pick themselves up. This Herald, Xiaohongren, is in the area. Can he get involved? Can he steal this one away? We did see some steals in the previous game, but he's not in a great spot. There are low health bars on BLG, though.
On his low. No. Heartbreaker out, though. Used defensively. Feather knocks away the Yone, but he's able to tether right back inside. The Rift Herald will be reset because it looks like BLG might just want to try to fight things out here a little bit longer. But now they will retreat, knowing that the rest of ThunderTalk would be coming up soon. SeTab was up and had teleport, and so instead it will be BLG ceding control of this Herald, at least for now. Knights around the area, still has flash. Beichuan not going to go for the steal, and so TT finally gets something back on the map.
They're not going to be too worried about losing out onto this Rift Herald though, right? You've got yourself a Yorick on squad. He's your own personal Rift Herald at this point. The bowling ball very nearly stealing that one away from Beichuan.
I was a little scared. I'm not going to lie, Bloxxer. I was a little scared.
That would have been very funny if it was picked up right then. Not quite going to happen, and so ThunderTalk, they are going to live to fight another day. Still, though, it's been so inactive overall on the map from ThunderTalk. It hasn't even been that ThunderTalk have been trying to get aggressive, and they've been mis-executing on these aggressive fights, and that's how BLG are getting in.
Oh, Knight's very overextended here. It certainly will cost him his life. Fate Shield used already, and there comes the Steadfast Presence in from Feather to make sure a shutdown finally goes the way of SeTab.
Though Critical going to open up. 1xN takes the first, takes the second. Third lands.
Fourth one not going to. But it does give away this mid-tier 1, and 1xN is going to be forced to run the wrong way here. And so the objective bounty was picked up in the top lane, but it's going to come at the cost of that mid lane turret, as we said. So the Rift Herald has been popped here by SeTab, but the base is just continuing to fall apart. ThunderTalk with the bounties are at least getting some stuff back here, but it might cost them a little bit here, as teleport away from SeTab is going to make sure that he stays alive, as Bin came in to try to cut him off.
Yeah, SeTab had to just run in that situation, but that's a pretty big cooldown to be losing out on now, right as we're going to have this Drake be spawning up, and then 2 minutes away from when the Atakan is going to be available. That leaves SeTab having to join up with these fights early on, and Hoya the only member with the teleport available to him. Same thing though for Knight. It's not like anybody's in a disadvantage in terms of number of TPs, but Bin can be more than happy to just sit in the side lane, not worry about having to join up with the rest of his team. Cloud Drake has now spawned 1 apiece at the moment, so picking this one up will be the start of the Drake stacking potentially for one of these teams. And BLG, they've certainly found bigger advantages so far in these team fights.
It's all about finding picks here for ThunderTalk, using the poke to get people low, finding resets for SeTab and Xiaohongren, but it just becomes harder and harder when the goal difference is this high. 5,000 at the 18-minute mark, as right now Knight is trying to cut off the rest of TT as they try to hunt for mid lane priority. Maybe looking for a catch. SeTab does have his charm at his disposal, but not going to find anybody to use it on. And instead, it'll be ThunderTalk retreating back to the mid lane to clear the wave out, and now BLG get control on the pit and will secure the second dragon for themselves.
Yeah, this one's just going to melt straight down. There's no response whatsoever out of ThunderTalk, and that really sucks for them, right? You've got yourself both the Smite and that Chomp from Hoya, but they haven't been able to use it at all so far. Second Drake going over to BLG as Knight continues to step up, get a little bit aggressive. We saw he overstepped in the top side of the map, right now being a little bit more cautious, and BLG continue to get themselves to those item breakpoints. First items completed onto everybody at the moment, second items just about beginning to come through. You can see 2 items onto Bin at the moment. Over on the other side though, ThunderTalk, you do now have that second item completed onto 1xN. So this main man for ThunderTalk, this carry they lean on so much whenever they are able to pick up wins. He's in a decent spot to be able to carry, but still with this poke version of the Varus, it's pretty tricky to do.
It's all about, you know, just trying to single out some of these squishier members here. Get Elk low, maybe focus some attention on maybe find a reset for Xiaohongren. I mean, it's so difficult right now for ThunderTalk to be able to play this game out because of the lead that they have given up for themselves. The one advantage where they have at the map right now is SeTab, who's been farming up very nicely on the Ahri. Approaching that second item, that Leandri's almost completed, and there it is as he heads back to base. So that is where maybe ThunderTalk can find a little bit of something. But BLG have already started to open up their 1-3-1, and it's been working well so far. They're controlling a lot of areas of the map, making sure ThunderTalk are very uncomfortable in terms of allocating their resources anywhere.
Absolutely, just constantly pulling the members of ThunderTalk around. This is something the BLG have always done really well. Their individual laning is great, but usually we expect them to be a great team fighting team as well. Stepping up to this one. Oh, it's
that half
so
HP.
Dark.
I mean, Xiaohongren is too far away. This objective surely will go down unless we can find a really nice Keeper's Feather. It does not find a mark. Here comes a potential fight. Xiaohongren is going to get into the pit, but it's secured by Beichuan. Bin very low, though. Is going to have to run his way out of there. As the curtain call, not going to find any single kill. The 4-shot just gets tanked by a full health Cho'Gath. So no kills going over just yet. Beichuan throwing out the swirl seed, hunting for a potential find, but he will not be able to get anything else as BLG go on the retreat.
That's going to be fine, though, BLG. You managed to pick yourself up the Atachan. That's all you really need in this situation. Now they can just wait once again 3 more minutes until they can go towards this Drake, or 4 minutes until they can go towards this Baron. BLG, they're not looking to over-accelerate this game. They're more than happy to play this one out a little bit slower. Now, looking for a potential pick here onto Hoya.
Yeah, Hoya's in a lot of trouble right now. There comes the watch out. EP just doesn't really work as a tank either. He's going to eat one of the minions to get himself the final stack that he can get off of a creep. But with his 5th death in the game, he's going to start to lose a lot of value real quick, as it's going to be another kill picked up for Bilibili.
Oh, it's rough when you see all of the carries up in XP over all of the carries for ThunderTalk. BLG, they're in an incredibly strong position right now in this game. They've currently got themselves a good push going on. Bin pushing through the top lane. It's going to be a little while until he manages to make it to that tier 2 tower. But now in a 4v5, it's such a rough situation. You're getting pulled around the map, and uh-oh.
Let's see, Lullaby connects. Oh, what a flash combo here from Knights to secure the kill on a SeTab. And Xiaohongren went a little bit too far to try to defend his mid laner. It ends up in 2 kills going over to BLG as ThunderTalk are now down 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's just getting worse and worse right here. You can see also Maiden, oh, not quite going to be able to take down that tower in the top lane. That's so close to falling. Still, the bot lane tier 2 is going to fall right here in the face of Elk. And ThunderTalk, the map just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller for them. And this just feels like it's going to be a loss. A 2-0 here for BLG. Exactly what we needed from them, right? Things are looking rough for this squad. Big questions. Big questions around Wei in the jungle. They finally pull the trigger, decide to swap things around. Beichuan sets this one up. Good bowling ball into Lilting Lullaby, and Knight flash ulti. Beautiful combo right there. And actually, what we didn't see was on the attempted rotation right here, Xiaohongren also goes down. BLG now 16-2 in terms of kills. More importantly, they're going to be up by 8,000 gold.
Yeah, I mean, this game looks pretty over at this point, and obviously there's still chances of comebacks, blah, blah, blah. Anything can happen in League of Legends, but BLG look like they're in position at 2-0 this series, and can continue around this dragon that's spawning in 50 seconds. The more important note, I learned that the Yorick Maiden counts as a minion because Hoya ate it and didn't get a stack, because he already had 6. So that's a fun fact that I just learned.
She does a lot of damage. She's a big, important part of Yorick's life, but unfortunately, Cho'Gath cannot nom her for an extra stack. I think that would be a bit mean, especially when you go and send the Maiden pushing down its own lane somewhere else.
It's not a free stack machine, is what I've learned. No. Yeah. Here comes the fight, potentially. Oh, what an engage. Started up here by On. Here comes Knight on the back line, going to try to find Feather to start things off. Hoya and the rest of ThunderTalk are going to be able to shut down the Yone, so that's something back here for ThunderTalk. But look at Bin pushing into the top lane, breaking open an inhibitor as we speak. It is a 1-for-0 so far, but still it is ThunderTalk who are forced to run away in this situation. Beichuan continuing to cancel the resets. It might cost him his life, though, as Elk will take down Hoya on the back end of things. I think with a Deadly Flourish or with a Curtain Call, I'm not 100% sure. That's an inhibitor down in the top lane. Bin is going to head back all happy. And ThunderTalk, despite finding an advantage, still are going to lose out on the eventual trade.
And this is how you use the Yorick, right? You just push through the top lane. Yes, your team kind of loses out onto the fight, but they don't fully lose, as ThunderTalk has to immediately peel back, head back into the base, stop this Yorick from being able to just take everything they own. This is now going to be a 3-item completed Hull Breaker Yorick. We'll just melt through towers. Xiaohongren as well. You don't want to step into this bush, buddy. Is just going to get taken down. Elk picks up that kill as well, and things go from bad to worse for ThunderTalk.
ThunderTalk's jungle. Still Beichuan's jungle here in this series. Even though we switched the nameplates, everything belongs to him at this point as he's level 16 on the Lilia. Another look at this play. Starts off with a 3-man stun from On.
And from there, it looks like it's going to be a great fight, but I've got to be honest, it's really just single targets for a lot of these hits. Nobody's able to quite grab all of the damage they really needed to onto any of these key carries. Elk ends up chasing Hoya around in the jungle for forever. It's just going to be a fourth shot that picks up this kill, you'd have to imagine. Yep, plenty of damage on that one. And actually, on the picture-in-picture,
Knight finds another knock-up onto Hoya, gets rooted up by the Deadly Flourish, but all of a sudden the Cho'Gath starts to do a little bit of damage. But again, as soon as any fight starts to open up around the river, it's been just opening up the gates into this bottom lane. This time another inhibitor will drop, as Zhao has no chance at stopping this one. And with everybody forced back to base to make sure the game doesn't end, it'll be BLG most likely picking up a pretty free Baron.
Yeah, this is Yorick Gaming right here. This is exactly what you want to be doing with this champion, just constantly getting involved. And I think Bin has actually played this one out really well. If he wins this one, he's actually going to be 3-1 on this champion. I've not loved the Bin Yorick, but it has been relatively effective for them so far. And in this game specifically, teleporting into team fights when he needed to be there, otherwise just sitting in the side lanes, and you can see the map just crumbling to pieces right now. ThunderTalk, they've picked themselves up 1 tower, and they've lost 7 of them across the course of this game.
And I'm not going to lie, Bloxxer, I think at this point, after BLG head back to base, maybe they could sell their recall button and just try to end the game off of here. Give themselves a little bit of extra challenge. I feel like off this Baron push, they should be able to finish things off over ThunderTalk. Have they fixed that mechanic? Can you still accidentally do that?
I'm pretty sure you can no longer sell it. That was very funny when it first happened, but no. I'm not going to be sellable. Xiaohongren once again going to get jumped right here. Bin does so much damage to him. His little minions too. Ow! Is he dead? He's dead! Oh
Sends the ghouls on a ride straight into the body of Zhao Hongren as Bin is just taking over this game. Hoya's gonna go down. Elk fighting a 1v3 as Knight will drop once more. As SeTab is very low, the Keeper's Verdict gonna knock away just the Rel, but Beichuan comes in. This is Beichuan's game against his former team, and the jungler for BLG is gonna send his team to a 3rd straight series win with relative ease. This time around, a 27-minute victory over ThunderTalk as BLG jump up to 7-5.
Game right there from BLG. They're just about beginning to separate themselves away from the rest of the pack. That big crush in the middle of the pack that we've been talking about. Brilliant game from multiple members right here of BLG. It's going to be an interesting discussion about who picks themselves up the MVP in that one. ThunderTalk, it just never felt like they were able to get involved in that game. They lost that initial kill down in the bottom lane. They no longer had a pressure lane there that they would have otherwise liked to play around. And from that moment on, they were just getting pulled around the map.
And so BLG picking up, again, another win here in the 2nd round robin. They are undefeated in series with Beichuan. And these guys looking very, very good. And a little bit of a dangerous team going forward into the back half of the season here in LPL Split 2. I do believe it's a similar situation to WE that we talked about, though, Bloxxer, in that they have played against FPX now, ThunderTalk, who are teams that are kind of towards the bottom at this point, and then Weibo, who seemingly can lose to anybody and win against anybody on any given day. So now for BLG, the next test comes in 2 days' time, where they play against anyone's Legends. If that goes well, all of a sudden this team is a real threat.
Yeah, I think there's 2 questions, right, with the rest of Week 6. You've dismantled ThunderTalk. Congratulations. They are ThunderTalk. That was very much to be expected. You've passed the first hurdle. AL is going to be a show of, hey, where are you sat up towards the top end of the pack, right? If anyone's Legend still beat BLG, I think that's not too surprising at this point. It wasn't just the jungle that was the problem for BLG, but things certainly are looking better. The next battle for them as well, WE BLG, I think that one's going to be a fascinating matchup, right? Are WE legit? Are BLG legit? And that one is very much going to shake out a bit of that middle of the pack that we keep on talking about, where so many of the teams are sat. BLG, they've got some really fascinating matchups coming up.
It's the 2 hottest teams maybe going at it against each other. We'll see what BLG look like after that series against anyone's Legends, if that is their next matchup. But if that goes well, and WE still on a roll somehow, some way, hey, we just saw both of them pull off 2-0s here on the LPL today. Maybe they will go up against each other here in just a few short days. As that's the beauty here of the LPL. You constantly get super entertaining matchups between all these teams, and it's been a really competitive split so far, I would say, overall. As for ThunderTalk, has not been very competitive for them, as they have to head back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I mean, you bring in this new jungler and you're hoping maybe things will change around. You're not exactly expecting it to fix anything. you're not doing a straight swap. You don't even get Wei on the backside of this trade, right? Maybe if Wei comes in, he can change things around here for ThunderTalk, but unfortunately, not going to be the case. And they are currently sat right at the very bottom right here of Group Ascent. They look like the worst team in Group Ascent. Ninjas in Pajamas, I think, also look pretty bad, but they have at least some things to potentially try to play around. They've got themselves a couple more individual wins, not necessarily series wins, but individual wins too, that makes them a slightly better team at the moment. And I don't know what you can do to fix it right now. Hoya isn't able to get anything going. SeTab isn't able to get anything going. 1xN sometimes can, but just isn't good enough to be able to fully carry the team when everything else around him feels like it's on fire.
We saw some changes kind of come in for other teams in the league, and we saw that kind of come through with relative success. You know, talk about Monkey coming into WE, even on some of the teams in Group Nirvana with LGD picking up somebody like Nio in the jungle. Could that be a situation for ThunderTalk to thrive in? Maybe not for this split, but going into split number 3, that could be a question left to answer. As you see here, Xiaohan Gran on the Viego didn't do a whole lot, as it seems like ThunderTalk also really missing Beichuan right now, as they are now 0-4 in games since he has left the team.
Doing 2% less damage than Feather did in that game. Oh boy, it is rough out here for ThunderTalk. I mean, right, it's bad, but it doesn't necessarily even stop here at this point, because the way that things work out with the Group Ascent, Group Nirvana, once they mix up for that single best of 5 to determine who gets themselves into the playoffs, ThunderTalk will play against, if they are going to be our worst team, the 7th best team right here in the LPL Group Ascent, which at the moment could be any number of teams, including BLG, Weibo, IG, WE, or FPX. All of those are teams that look significantly better than they do at the moment, and I would not trust ThunderTalk to be able to win in a best of 5 against any of them.
Again, such a bit of a disappointing kind of fall from grace after what was a very exciting beginning to 2025 for ThunderTalk. You might remember they made it all the way to the semifinals of the Demacia Cup, and then ended up pulling off a win over BLG in a best of 5 in split 1, making it to top 8. That was certainly an accomplishment here for this roster, who kind of has constantly shuffled through a numerous amount of their players, and have had different iterations of their roster, but seem to have finally kind of settled on something, led by a core of that top side of Beichuan and Hoya that have been around for, I think, 3 or 4 years at this point. But now Beichuan's gone, Hoya's not looking so hot, and ThunderTalk have a lot of questions that they have to answer if they want to try to end this 2025 on a high note.
Yeah, as we just have a look back at some of these team fights, you saw it with the gold graph, right? It was a nice, smooth road to victory here for BLG. One team fight that didn't look ideal for them, and even then they end up picking up an inhibitor and a couple of towers on the back end of it because of the push from Bin on this Yorick. So overall, just a brilliant set of games here from BLG. The sort of games that give you a lot of confidence, even if it's not necessarily against one of the best opponents, and gives you extra stage time with your new jungler and putting you in a better spot looking forwards. As we've been talking about, right, BLG, they've got themselves some hard tests coming up with AL and WE. Depending on how they're looking at the end of week 6, the narrative around BLG may well have completely flipped on its head, from a real struggling team on a slide down towards the bottom of Group Ascent to a team revitalized by bringing Beichuan in the jungle.
It's going to be very interesting to see how BLG continue to grow throughout the split, especially if they end up making it to internationals like they are hoping and expecting this roster change to potentially lead them towards, and whether a player like Beichuan, who has never been really a part of a top-level team in the LPL, will be able to hold his own against some of the best players in the world, and if this roster change does not only help BLG in the regular season, but maybe even surviving into internationals when you have players as talented as Elk, Knight, Bin, and On. Is slotting in somebody like Beichuan going to be enough? I feel like a lot of people did not necessarily think that this was a ceiling-raising move here for BLG, but we'll see if that ends up being the case, as Beichuan now finally getting his opportunity on a top team. Player of the game going towards Bin on the Yorick, and that makes a lot of sense considering all of the damage he was able to do to the enemy base.
Yeah, I mean, I love it when we get these end-of-game stats for the MVP. and I'm like, I don't want to know what the kill participation was for a Yorick. I want to know what the tower damage was, right? How many structures did he destroy throughout that game? And hey, I'm not mad at all about that one being Bin's MVP. He looked brilliant in that one, really effective right here on the Yorick pick. I was questioning a little bit during the draft phase, didn't think he'd looked so good on it in a lot of their previous games, but in that one, completely flawless, was just constantly providing all the pressure the BLG needed to win that game.
Yeah, one of the cleaner Yorick games I feel like I've seen, was able to both provide impact in the team fighting as well as in the side lanes. Granted, the game was pretty cooked by the time he ended up becoming involved in any of those fights, and so it just kind of added to that. But shout out to Bin for being able to add another champion here to his resume, and that certainly is going to be something that teams are going to worry about alongside the new addition for BLG in Beichuan, who continues to thrive here with his new squad as they pick up their 3rd straight win to kick off the 2nd round robin of Group Ascend, this time against Beichuan's former team in ThunderTalk. But that's going to do it for us today here on LPL English. 2-2-0s this time around, but entertaining games nonetheless. We got at least one in each of those series here. As before we go, have to give a quick shout out to our Elite Coffee subscribers, Aaron Soup, Mung, and Forrest Without. Their pledged financial contributions help level up the broadcast and give back to the cast and crew to strive to give you an English LPL product every day. So thank you so much to our Elite Coffee supporters. If you want to become one of them, link down in the Twitch chat as well for all of that. We do have one final look at the standings after the conclusion of the games today, Bloxxer, and that can give us a preview of what to expect going into this 6th week of the LPL regular season.
Oh, it's going to be incredibly hype. There's so many good games happening in this week number 6. We're really beginning to draw to a close here in the LPL. You can see TESAL right on top at the moment. Then a ton of teams sat around the same sort of spot. NIP ThunderTalk bringing up the rear. Group Nirvana also incredibly exciting. OMG eliminated not just for the rest of this split, but for the rest of the year as well. So much fun still to be had here on the LPL.
CWE in 6th place. I see you, man. Climbing up those ranks with that 5th straight victory. As tomorrow, we have JDG first kicking things off against WE. That's going to be a very interesting game. See how far WE really can climb. And then after that, ThunderTalk against IG, 2 teams that are currently slumping on those 4-match loss streaks. See that same time as per usual, 5 a.m. Eastern time, 2 a.m. Pacific time here in North America. And whatever else that ends up lining up to. I think it's 10 a.m. GMT, if
10
I'm not mistaken here. So there we go. I got my European geography right. On behalf of our production team, in terms of Chippy, our producer, Bloxxer here, my color caster by my side. My name has been Grapes. Thank you so much for tuning into the LPL today. Our final scores across the series, 2-0 for WE over FPX, and then just here right now, BLG with a 2-0 win over ThunderTalk. Thank you so much for tuning into the LPL today. We'll see you all tomorrow for more action.